you guys hear my voice and guitar okay? I've got Elodie in bed here. Nanny's watching a film. Here's David Beebe. You alright, bud? Hey, Jake. Can you hear my voice? Can you hear the dodgy guitar playing? Hey, Seth. Northern New Jersey. Edward. I often do think of the hexatonic yes. Can you hear my voice when I'm talking? Okay. People from Cologne, we got someone from India, we got someone from Glasgow. Hey everyone, if you've got questions, let me know in the live chat. I'm watching it here. I'm just trying to practice. This is it's like the A section of is it Bossa Dorada? Favourite Strat pickups are Lola Dirty Blondes. What's the square root of 3968? I don't think, we don't have one. Where I'm from, we don't believe in a round earth or squares. Hey Zen Guitar Guy, I do have the Joyo amp out in the hallway for you, but the dog was in the vet overnight last night, so my plans have been slightly scuppered. Elodie's in bed. Hopefully she stays vaguely asleep. Have you seen those nachos pop up on Reverb? Carlo said. Will I check the PRS NF3? What's the one that I've just checked? Is that the NF53? Is the NF3 the PRS SE? Nicholas asks. I don't know what... NF53, they let me borrow one to check out, as well as the Miles Kennedy. The NF3, I'm thinking, is the SE. Five Finger full prices. I'm just watching Honest review video. I've noticed a lot of YouTube gear channels have gotten really commercial, and it's like every piece of gear has the same pre-made video. It's an interesting. I think, yeah. Just think of that part of stuff. I think that's an NF53, isn't it? Sometimes I think it could be more interesting to wait like a week or so after a launch of a product, and in some ways even maybe longer than that, to see if people are still talking about it. Like, for instance, the Kernam Ridge, I waited a long time. It took a long time for me to kind of think about checking it out, but yeah, I don't know. I think honesty is a bit of a funny word to use for it these days, for me specifically, because I do like a big mixture. Obviously I borrow Jake's guitars quite a lot. I buy a bunch of stuff, but, at the same time, I do paid work for companies. And in the case where you're doing that, it's not really a review so much, is it? But you can try and point out things as much as possible. Mount Rushmore of favourite guitar players. Jonathan Kreisberg, Eric Johnson. Let me keep thinking. I think Julian Large, maybe. Michael Landau. Is the Silver Sky the only guitar you have with original pickups? No, all of my guitars have the original pickups in them. Mark Lettieri, yeah, amazing guitar player. I want to check out the Fiore. I've asked PRS if I can borrow one at some point. Guitar, not sure if John missed my question on hexatonic scales. Can you write it again and I'll try and check it out? I've got a jazz gig on Saturday which has come out of the blue. So I'm sort of trying to get back into being able to play jazz. Yeah, this is an autofocus, so there's not too much I can do with it except for have a face which is less. Progression is like a D minor to an E7, to a G minor, to an A7, back to D minor. So we're kind of going from D minor, then to like the 5 of A minor, back to the 2, so I'm hitting like an E7 arpeggio here. In terms of hexatonic scales, I don't know if I'm calling them the technically the right thing. Like there could be lots of pentatonic scales, there could be lots of hexatonic scales, but the way that I think about it is somewhere between a major scale and a pentatonic scale. And what I'd generally be focusing on is just, I'm thinking about, like, say if I was playing in D minor, then I'd just be adding really that E. So if I'm playing here in this specific key, I could either be thinking of it in like F as like the parent, so then I'd be thinking about hitting the 7, or if I'm thinking about it as D minor as the root, then I'm thinking of hitting the 9. What guitar will I be playing? I'll be playing an ES165, the Herb Ellis signature. It's like an ES175, but just with the neck pickup. I've got it out upstairs, ready to go for it. What was the altered scale lick? I don't know, probably... I don't know. That one, I kind of... Christian Stevenson asks, thoughts on the Mezza California Tweed versus the Fender Deluxe Reverb? I'm going to assume you mean the Reverb, right? For me, I just think the Deluxe Reverb normal channel is like one of my favourite clean channels ever. Just does the thing. And the California Tweed I found actually a little bit more scooped, to be honest. Yeah, when I had it. And also I didn't love the reverb on it as much as the Deluxe Reverb has quite a good reverb, although my one is probably broken. So yeah, I would go with the Deluxe Reverb if you're asking me. But what do I know? Edo from Switzerland. Hey, will her behave volume-wise for the gig? It better had to, otherwise I'll be chucking it on the floor. All right, Evie. Sajid says, "Hey Tim, hey Sajid, how you doing? Do you know what's the difference between PRS SE McCartney 594 for £850 and for £600? I have no idea. Are they two different models? I think you've skipped something there." Paul Griffin says, "Hello there, Sajid. We need to go for a coffee at some point." Right, other tunes that I need to check out. Hey Paul. How you doing, Tim? How many properties do you have now? Enjoy work, 5 finger, full price. Would you have any good resources to develop rhythmic phrasing in improv? So, the one thing that I would suggest doing really would be to try and play things that sound like things you've heard before. And rhythmic phrasing, I think one thing that is going to sound or make things sound like you have good phrasing or not is probably timing as much as anything else. So if your timing is dodgy, then your phrasing is necessarily probably going to sound slightly dodgy. Ibanez AZ standard compare with the equivalent Sire S. I think I prefer the neck on the AZ standard. It's slightly thicker. Both of them have a tendency to have slightly under-polished frets on my experience. Yeah, I think the AZ standard looks better. Any ear training tips? For me personally, I just have always been someone that tried to play along with a lot of different tunes. Whether those are pop tunes or whatever, and just try and develop the sort of ear fretboard relationship as much as possible. Not anything specific ear training wise, but also like, really knowing whether you're on chord 1, chord 5, or chord 6, chord 2. Those sorts of things are kind of burned into my ear from being a young kid. Hey Jim, hope you're doing well over there. So it's more like a thing where, for me, ear training happened when I was young. So yeah, if you're recording, do expensive pickups really matter? It's a good question. It depends on you. I think in general, everything matters a little bit, but you can get really good results from non-expensive pickups, and I think the pickups are less important than. Well, you can come to the coffee as well, Tim, if you want. What am I saying? Pickups really matter. Yeah, what's more important than most of the gear stuff is like the actual take, is what I've learned over time. Reamping the same take through any sort of gear generally yields a pretty similar result. But good pickups are worth having, I think. If you're recording, I think it might be worth experimenting with noiseless pickups as well if you're sat near a monitor, because a lot of these don't do work so well. Shalino says I talk weird but I play guitar really well. That's cool. Levi John Mayer, 99.99 ZAR. Thank you very much for that. Thanks for dropping some money in. Where was ZAR from? The MSG flavour says, how do you work on playing lines that have 16th notes and triplet feeling passages? So let's just do it a bit slower, I guess. Let's do it in time. So if just try it like slow first, but so just focus on trying to keep the pulse kind of steady and think about, I want to kind of focus on the 16th notes not being too fast, if you get what I mean, when I switch to them. That's one of the key things that I try to focus on. It's like trying to... Christian asks, how do I go about remembering what keys are in a key, notes are in a key, so you know what chords to play? You have to basically not be thinking about what notes are in a key, I think. Does that make sense? It needs to be like a muscle memory and mind memory thing. If you're trying to think of it on the fly, it's probably not going to work. So it's more a case of practicing so much playing in the keys, which is what I used to do as a kid as well. Like right now I'm thinking of F major, but at no point on the neck am I thinking, well, what notes are in it? It's just F major to me. Do you know what I mean? So it's like a thing where you have to really think about it, not think about it, but have practice playing in F major so much that it's become unconscious. I've not listened to Brad Paisley much except for his stuff that's on records. I quite like listening to smooth country radio at the moment. JHS did email me, sort of apologising, not apologising, but saying it wasn't his intent that people, you know, got angry with me, and did ask for my address multiple times, but I didn't feel like I needed them to send me a pedal, and that wasn't really the point of the video in general. C Mixolydian, yeah, F major, that's how I think of that. With scales memorization, what method do you use? I'm looking into Tom Quayle's method. Yes, well, David Beebe and Tom Quayle are very good people to listen to on this stuff. And so Matt Wise Music says, what he's saying right now illustrates my problem with Tom Quayle's approach. David Beebe might be in the chat. He was earlier on. It's not so much... I think good practice doesn't need to mean that it's always the way that you're thinking, if that makes sense. So trying to practice like tracking intervals and being conscious of what you're playing is definitely a good thing anyway. In the heat of actual improvisation, maybe some of it doesn't go out the window, but I think David and Tom might tell you that there's more thinking or being aware of it. I guess they'd probably not think of it necessarily in the moment, but it's like practice to make it unconscious, and they're tracking it probably more than you think they might be. So although, you know, there might be fast lines and stuff, and maybe then you might fall back into a 3-note per string type thing, although I don't think Beebs ever really did that. But yeah, it's one of those things where, like all of the guitar theory stuff that I know so much, I say so much, I know of, is not necessarily flowing through my head at all points whilst I'm improvising. Does that make sense? So just because Tom Quayle plays fast a bunch doesn't necessarily mean there's not validity to the approach as well. And David and Tom do think about things differently to me. I think very much parent scale approach, whereas I think they're a bit more traditional in terms of scale formulas and chord formulas and stuff like that. I don't know time. I could play something Lydian, but as a case in point, for me, when I think of Lydian, really, I'm just thinking we're hung on chord 4. That's what it is to my ear. Uh, so for me, if I was to think of something specific as E flat Lydian, I think I'd be thinking in quite a different way. Whereas if I think about it as being chord 4 of B flat, lots more stuff is available to me. It suits me much better as someone who started on piano just to think of it as chord 4 of B flat. But I am relying then on like some ear stuff to kind of avoid certain things that are going to sound weird. Like I wouldn't come up, hey Dave, how you doing? And cache is a perfectly valid way to think of it. Keep the questions coming. I also have a question for you guys that I'm wanting to put together like a little pedal board for studio type, like a studio rig. And I'm thinking of pedals that should be on there. So if you've got suggestions for that, I'd love to hear them. Yeah, it's just the idea of like a wireless sort of pedal board that could be useful. Creative guitarist, well, I don't have perfect pitch. I have relative pitch, which for me, I extensively know which notes are near the ones I'm currently playing, which is cool. Oh, new music review, Tim, I think. Guitar show this year. I should be there possibly on the Sunday. Please check out the outro to time. Move between C major and D major. How much bass do I have my tone? Do I high pass aggressively? How much bass? It's the other way. High pass. Like high cut I have, and then I generally don't use any low cut. So David Beebe says the best way I can explain it in a short comment would be it's practiced very slowly, consciously, but then moves to the back of the brain when actually playing. Maybe there's a grey area. Exactly. It's like pretty much anything theory-wise, yeah? Sal Guitar asks, Psy Guitar, practice learning triads or learning a hexatonic scale across the fretboards. What would you recommend to do first? I would go major scale first, above all, probably, in my opinion. Like, what is the major scale? Why is the major scale? Those sorts of questions. I would say that. I would say hexatonic scale is like a good bet if you're kind of stuck in pentatonic world as like a little your bridge out. But I'd say really the major scale is pretty much the most important scale if you're wanting to get out of like, I don't know, unconscious playing into conscious playing. I don't know if other people might agree with that, but the major scale is kind of home for a lot of it. Matt and Beebs are having some more chat, but yeah, so if anyone's got any other questions about stuff, feel free to ask. How about a Greer Lightspeed? Good shout. Hey Harry Sound. Buzz Crumhunger, that's a cool name. So when do we get Jake and Jonathan to start that pedal show, The Next Generation? Those guys didn't know what a Discord server was. I reckon they might know what it is, but it's a like admin to run an extra thing, right? Yeah. Right. How many hours a day do you play and time spent playing versus practicing? I'm more of a playing guy these days because I don't get much time to to um to practice now that I have a kid. So it's more like I play guitar and get a metal. Stacey asked, do I have any solo guitar music released anywhere? Yes, there is stuff on Bandcamp. There's stuff on Spotify. If you search John Nathan Cordy, there is not sufficient demand to warrant me doing much more of it, but it does exist. Cali 76 to add to that studio pedal board. I'm not the most compressor usy type of person. I'm thinking like I'd have like maybe a Game Changer Audio Plus on there. When I improvise, I am aware of all the scales alterations in the given tonality, but I don't track the scale degree, such as know how to play the third or fourth. Am I at a loss? Don't know what that might mean, really. After I learn the major scale, should I focus on triads? Triads are, again, like one of those really key things that are going to help you. It's more about, I would say there's no real roadmap to a lot of this stuff, but yeah, just learn the things that are interesting you and give you sufficient sort of motivation to carry on learning those things, and I think you'll find hopefully that gets you somewhere. How do you think of more extended chords to use for progression or chords with alternate bass notes? I think personally, Daniel, of things in inversions a lot. So like to me, that's an inversion of a G major chord. So like the inversions are really useful. Spread triads are really useful. Edward asks, what do I think about the Helix LT? I think I prefer the full Helix with the scribble strips. If you're going to go for a larger flagship board, I think the scribble strips are really helpful. No roadmap, real problem. I think you'll find that a lot of the best players don't necessarily have a roadmap. It's like they followed what interests them, and that kind of leads you into areas that you might need to know anyway. Like what use is there for most people to learn Hungarian minor scales and stuff like that? Almost zero. Is that somewhere on someone's roadmap? Maybe. Do you need it to make a career playing music? No, not really. So touch harmonics, go 12 frets above, and just go there. And it does take a lot of sort of pointing. Robert Johnny Coley asks, "Hi John, I often see sounds too high gain on the quad cortex." No, not tapping. You're just going 12 frets above wherever you are. Kind of like that thing. Missed that one. I haven't found a sound that comes close to Holdsworth yet. It's probably lacking multi-tap delays. Yeah, does that make sense? Quad tap delays are a really important part of that. Yeah, so when I'm thinking about like what chords are available, I'm thinking about mostly thinking about playing in the key and finding things that like everything's available. If you think about G major, it's just some of it won't sound good. Paimon asks, "Hey John, I get a very loud picture up sound when I play high gain lead. I play with a Jazz 3. I personally use Black Ice Didarios. Those have quite a cool bit of a softer attack. That's maybe an idea." Brat Cave asks, "I think you mentioned you're more of a parental scale guy." Definitely. Are you conscious of planning ahead much to land on favourite chord tones, or is this just by ear now? It's mostly by ear. Mostly. Unless I'm playing sort of things like I started at the opening. Whoop. Like this sort of thing, I'm going to be thinking about specifically hitting the third of the E major there, hitting the third of the B flat, G minor. And mostly I rely on arpeggios for this. Hey. I would say, Daniel, that maybe nines and E flat are a little bit of a loose, flappy combination for me personally. I think tens for me in E are what I currently sit on mostly. On the Silver Sky, there's some 9.5s, which slightly reduce tension. But if I was playing in E flat, I think I'd definitely be staying tens, maybe going up to 11s personally at the moment. But it depends on your hands and your hand health and what stage of life you're at as well. Find something that works comfortably. If it's too buzzy for your American standard in E flat, maybe higher action or more neck relief. Sorry, is probably what I should say. Might be an idea. Right. Josh says, "Know you're familiar with the Nobel's ODR1 and some clones, but have you tried the Wampler Bell? It's pretty nice with the gain up using a Strat." Yeah, if it's based on the ODR1, it's going to be cool. Sai asks, "Does it have rolled fretboard edges?" It does. These are slightly more rolled than the other K-lines that I've had more recently. but that might be something to do with how much I've played this guitar. Probably. Don't know. But some of the more recent examples have slightly less rolled edges. It's been what I've noticed. Again, like example where I might have to think a bit more arpeggio based than normal, just straightforward parental scale based would be something like Donna Lee. So in that case, I'm tracking the chords in my head really. So Dwayne says, what was your process when starting ear training? I'm at the beginner stage. I'm learning the minor and major second intervals, but I have a hard time. It's weird because in some lower octaves, I can hear the differences, but in the higher octaves, it feels like a guessing game at times. So for me personally, I think a lot of my ear skills, such that they are or whatever, would be more based on like what the note sounds like against the root. So for instance, if I hear the root of G and you ask me to sing like any note at all, it might be a bit more difficult than asking me to sing a note that was like diatonic to G major. So that's the 9. And like the C would be there. I can sing the diatonic notes quite easily, and I think that is probably a skill that is going to get you further in most music than like being able to do any interval at all. Like it's kind of like there's a priority, right? Where most of the time you'll be singing things or playing things in a key. So maybe for me, I would first of all focus on like trying to sing the intervals specifically within like G major, and so like an E against that, and that sort of thing, and you know, try not to do it on camera because it's embarrassing. Singing an F sharp, there's a minor third, that sort of thing. I think that could get you, like in terms of basic ear training, that's quite a lot of what will be useful, in my opinion. Other people might have some other suggestions in chat. That would be where I might say, reducing left hand tension when playing more stretched out chords. Been playing for decades, but took a break, now feeling some uncomfortable tension. So one thing that I would suggest would be like considering whether neck shape is a factor in this. So I did play an Ibanez hollow body for a little while, but I was starting to notice that one specific guitar just didn't really suit me. So the guitars that I play now, I don't really have any hand issues with. The other thing for me is that actually, like, if I'm playing like jazz stuff, I actually specifically go for really simple voicings that are literally not going to either sort of cause hand cramp, but equally are not going to trip me up when I'm trying to get between the two, if that makes sense. You know, whereas some guitarists go for, Glyn says use 11s. Yeah, we'll start high and then over time move down. I've never had any issues with RSI, but when I used to play piano on gigs, because I was doing a lot of cowboy left hand stuff, if I did like 2 or 3 gigs on the trot, I would then start to feel like a bit of something across the back of this hand here, and that worried me quite a bit. So I, at that time, would take a lot of like garlic supplements, which was great for the vampires. And other bad jokes. Right. Yes, AZs are definitely thicker than either the RG and the S, which I would say are very... which way have I got to go to actually get the camera closer? Which I would say are very slim necks. I think yeah, because of those guys favouring down drop tunings, then that is why you might find that 10s make more sense, because those kind of players might typically, if they were using like normal tunings, use something like 9s, but they're using, you know, dropped D or lower often. It makes more sense to put a slightly heavier string on them at the factory, probably. That might be an idea. AZs, thicker or the same as a telly. Depends on the telly. If it's an older style telly, I'd say they'd be slimmer than like a no-caster style neck, which are typically very thick. A modern telly would probably come with quite a skinny neck if it's like that, but you know what I mean. Still got the Herb Ellis, Nako asks. Yes, I'm going to be using it on Saturday with Will Edmonds at the Newt in Somerset, hopefully. Benny's Guitar Room, love the live format. Watching during your lunch. I hope the lunch is good. I actually had something quite good today. Shout out to Deep Impact. In Tesco, they have this like vegetarian all-day breakfast. It's actually really good. Yeah, I think the AZ is a very comfortable neck in a way that, for me, the RG and the S is not. $50 to change the strings seems excessive. Can I do a review of the Helix LT and how to get a good tone? I'd say the good tone would be the same as I'd use on the Helix Floor. It's all the same stuff, and HX Stomp. The only real difference, that it doesn't make too much sense for me to buy one, is that it doesn't have the scribble strips, and there's like a few tiny little changes. What exactly? And that's the other thing about skinny. I reckon with the skinny necks, you've got more chance, I think, of maybe having slightly dodgy hand stuff. I don't know. Whereas like a slightly thicker neck, I think there might be some science behind it, like encourages a slightly more reasonable hand position, maybe. I don't know if there's any real stuff to that. Video on the herb would be cool. Okay, I'll do that for you. It is upstairs. Students Care says, John, what is the cheap but best OD pedal? Can we define cheap? So what sort of price range are you looking at? Several vids on my channel about the LT. Yeah, check that out. If the creative guitarist has some. Basically anything you can do with the Helix, more or less, you could be able to do with the Helix LT. It's more that I really like the visual and the whole thing of having scribble strips and buttons and stuff like that. I think it's useful. I would say that looking at things at the current time, I wouldn't necessarily think it might be the best time to be investing in a new flagship, though. It's just reading the room and seeing what's happened. I don't know anything, but if anyone was asking for my advice on that, I would say this seems like a good time to just wait. Do you know what I mean? It feels like there should be something coming from someone soon, maybe. Not that I know anything, I don't. And if I did, I would probably have signed an NDA. So I would ask the creative guitarist, have you ever had the full Helix floor to know? That's the thing, if you'd never had the scribble strips, I reckon you'd probably be perfectly happy with the Helix LT. On the other hand, if you had the experience of gigging, if you're gigging with scribble strips, I think it's be maybe a little bit tricky to go the other way, if that makes sense. But, you know, like a Quad Cortex, for example, plenty of people are gigging then, they don't have scribble strips. It's just for me, when I gigged it after having scribble strips, it was like, this is not optimal. You forgot, Harry Sam forgot he had a Katana Go. Yeah, it's weird that, isn't it? How do you get lead tone using the Strat bridge pickup? So for me personally, I dial in my lead tones to work with the bridge pickup is kind of my advice. Whereas I think for someone like John Petrucci, he seems to dial in his lead tones to work with the neck pickup, whereas I go with the bridge. The Lola Dirty Blondes have a slightly hotter bridge pickup, not loads. But if I'm using lots of gain, I think one of the things is that you're looking for it to be a brighter tone, and also, so I think people think of it as maybe like as an ice pick. I would actually think of it as more of a clear tone than the neck. So it's actually quite nice for dialing in lead tones with a lot of gain because it doesn't have like a honkiness to it. It's kind of just direct. So if I'm using a lot of gain, then the bridge pickup will be what I'm using. But I'm using things like a high cut to tame fizzy stuff and also boost the mids, and maybe even take a treble back for like the really singing lead tone. Benny uses Podgo and 2 HX1s in the effect loop, which seems like maybe a Helix would be the way to go, right? Abelino Lopez says, have I tried Music Man guitars? I had two, like 20 years ago, nearly 18 years ago. I had a Music Man Silhouette, which was like the last guitar I bought before I went to uni, because I thought that would be like the last time I'd have any money to sort of spend on a guitar. But yeah, that's one that I had. And then the other thing is I had the Music Man Sub 1 back when that was like an American made but Poplar, I think. Yeah, that was a pretty cool guitar. I might need to let the guitar dogs out. High cut would be in the cab block B-Sus7. Yeah. Daniel, I'll come back to you on this one. Fill up the chat with some more questions. Well, don't go too crazy with it, but if you want to, go ahead, and I'll try and answer. There's a question here. Best amp under £1,000. Let me let the dog out. Come on, brother. You want to go out, brother? Brother? Come on, dog. Come here, buddy. For me, I'd go with a used deluxe reverb. Dark Matter, it's a good shout. Is that best drummers in the Southwest who aren't called Joe Harris or Gary Kroll? Miguel Andrews, I really like. Just got a Vox AC10. A Vox AC15 might not be a bad shout for under £1,000, depending on what you're doing. Here, Martias, am I a Haken fan? I have not listened to them. No. Who are the guitarists in Haken? I know the name. I don't even know how I should say it. The dark matter distortion pedal be used, like I used it in a gig. I did a month of gigs in Israel in like 2015. The dark matter was on my board for that. That was my main drive pedal for that. There's a video from Psionic Audio about some of the best. He's an amp tech, by the way, and he says like the best amps in certain price ranges. That would be a really good video to watch. Have I heard of John Wheatcroft? I've heard the name. Is he a gypsy jazz guy? Right. Stephen Consello asks, any experience using acoustic with the Helix? Yes. Debating on whether I want to get mics or put a pickup on it and go through the Helix. Really wanting to maintain the natural acoustic sound. You'll struggle with piezo pickups to get a really natural sound, but live is kind of the thing. Like, it's kind of the sound that we're generally used to hearing on a live sort of acoustic gig. So if you are playing live, then a piezo might be the way to go. Mics, I think if you're doing big gigs, it's going to be a bit tricky, I would say. But the approach that I use when using the Helix or HX Stomp Live is that I've got a preset that I kind of EQ'd to sound a bit more like a condenser, if that makes sense. What in-ear monitors do I recommend? I don't. I have used, they're called, the ones you get on Amazon, are they like ZSTs, something like that? Yeah. I've used them. So Left Right says, I think maybe you could make a video on how your finger placement approach to playing navigate across the neck. Legato playing is fluid and look effortless. It's definitely not effortless, but if you look at someone like David Beebe, I would say he's a really good guy to watch for legato technique, because his genuinely does look effortless and is very, very, very smooth. Oblique. Hold on, give me a second. Because you've just brought up something. Does this look familiar to anyone? Yeah, I had it on tuner. I think a Princeton or a Deluxe Reverb Old Man Fran might be a good practice and gig amp. But yeah, this is Charlie's. Yeah, don't tear my package up, which might be one of the better usernames of all time. Says, can you incorporate more cooking lessons into your videos? Sometimes I do actually cook for Lenny and Elodie, so maybe I could. So Josh says, do you get inspired musically from movie scores? As when I was younger and was able to watch films with the sound on, the answer is 100% yes. My favourite stuff, Randy Newman, one, which you might know, but like Toy Story, and also his cousin Thomas Newman. So sometimes you might hear me noodle these sorts of things. Let me just think of how it goes. Now it's completely gone from my head. I'm trying to think of what it would be. Oh, maybe this one. So I think that is something like the end of Shawshank Redemption. So that's Thomas Newman. There's a few things from Thomas Newman that I really, really love. What is the convenient way to use relative add nine chords in a minor pentatonic? It's a question that doesn't make too much sense to me, but in any chord will benefit from the 9. So D, C. So if I'm in G, there's the 9 on top. 4, 5, 4, 2. So it works over all of them. So just think about it as the 9 on top and whatever is diatonic. So it won't really work over the B minor so well. It's a Novo. I don't know exactly what the model is. Novo Ceres. But it's Charlie Allen's guitar. He lent it to my buddy Jake and he said that I could do a video on it. So that's the plan. It's got Lola Imperials in it, I believe. Right, Michael. Hold on, let me... I like melodic minor over the minor 4. That's kind of my go-to. Michael Ball. Hi John, new dad here. I'm wondering, since you are a dad as well that makes a living with music, how did you balance it out at first? Well, it's kind of got to take a back seat at first. Luckily, it's kind of my job and I do it from home most of the time. For the first sort of 3 months, I didn't gig, but I'd had videos. I had David Beebe did a video for me, and I basically banked a load of stuff beforehand. In terms of practice times, you're 3 months in. 3 months is short. Teach lessons, do instrument repair and building, also play live, and sometimes even an album or two. That's better than me. But you find you don't get any time to enjoy music for yourself, or even practice like you once could. So I think that is the one thing that really goes away, I've found, as a dad. Maybe we should do this like dad support chat. But there'll be plenty of other dads in the chat that can share their opinions on this. What I try to do is just get my hands on a guitar at some point, and it may be shorter than it used to be. But as long as I've got a chance to play the guitar for a little bit each day, that's generally keeps me, happy. The days of being able to practice 7 hours a day are long gone, and that's okay. That was a phase. This phase right now is that my kid's 2 now. Either I'm making videos or I'm, going out and getting a coffee with Jake, with Elodie in the car. The time to sit down and really practice quality stuff is not right. It's not something I can do right now, but she'll go to school one day and then I can practice my sweep picking again. Yeah. I don't know. If I didn't play guitar at all, I think I could start to feel. Um, I do feel weird, particularly. Nap times are crucial. Problem is, you often need a nap as well, and that's the thing. Just finding a gap in the day, which I appreciate for me as someone who makes videos at home, is a lot easier than for someone who has like a real job. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like I'm quite lucky in that regard. But just finding like 5 minutes to pick up a guitar and what can happen in that time. Like most of my intros that you've seen, typically they happen within the space of about 4-5 minutes. Like I get a chance to sit down, chuck the camera on, put a click on, and play something. And now that could be the reason why my playing is so repetitive, boring, and all those things. But at the same time, it's the best that I can do right now. Do you know what I mean? You know, I simply don't have time to do loads and loads of it. And exactly, keep a guitar on a stand somewhere. Whilst they're young, they won't mind you playing guitar. Elodie now doesn't like me playing guitar much, although I did get to play some jazz stuff while she was sat on the sofa and she was trying to kind of just watching and judging probably. But yeah, that would be my advice. Like, just try and find a short amount of time. Oh, there's another tune that I really like. Charlie's Novo. So I really love the neck. The neck is not dissimilar to something like on my K-Line Springfields. I thought the body on this was like a little bit more unrefined than I was expecting. Would be my first kind of, like, it's very much a piece of wood. The pickups, Lola Imperials, I really, really like. It plays well. He has absolutely rinsed the frets. Like, this is obviously a guitar that has been played absolutely loads. The nut is well cut. Yeah, just the frets are quite low and quite flat at this point because he's played it so much. Major 6th chords and its relative minor 7th chords are same, but what is actual chord name? I don't really know. Stephen says, when I finally get a chance to sit down and play and the kids are asleep, I catch wife aggro. Yeah, I think there is a thing like underappreciated dad syndrome. I think that is a thing. But that is our role at this point. Do you know what I mean? Like, you left it in. Deal with it. Plenty fan, yeah, I quite liked his Electric Sunrise album. Yeah, there's Beebs is there. He knows what I mean because it was partly his fault. C6 equals A minor. Wayne Baser says, so everyone, give Wayne a round of applause. This is Wayne Baser. He's one of the only people in this chat who has got a certain amp. C6 equals A minor. Right. Right, let me try and do something. try the Gretsch low. Admiral Crichton. Marty, yeah, that's what I know. Gabe Bergman, who was there working Dumble when I spoke to Taylor Barefoot, who owned a Dumble. Yeah, those are cool guys, and yeah, Dumble. I think basically the Dumble Preservation Society is what they call it, but they have to basically make amps if they are intending to protect that trademark, essentially. James, that is the plan. I've asked PRS if I could borrow a Fiore. I think that's how you say it, right? If I had to recommend a Strat under 1,000 dollars, Josh, I'd be looking at something like a Tokai, maybe a Japanese Fender. Those would be two good options. PRS Silver Sky SE, quite a lot under that. The worst PRS. That doesn't sound like very good. Hey Chris, how you doing, buddy? Yeah. This is Charlie Allen's Novo Ceres. It's a cool guitar. Sunday, yeah, I'll try and see you there. I think it's Tim, isn't it? Unfortunately, it doesn't make me play anything like Challen, but Elsa is okay, James. She's just down there. She's had general anaesthetic to get her stomach. The air removed. She basically got sudden bloat or a load of air in her. Don't know why. I think she kind of was sick and then panicked. Okay, so my thoughts on the guitar, it's great. It's not heavy. The neck is wonderful and super comfortable for me. It feels kind of like my Springfield necks. It's roasted, well cut nut. Seems to be holding tune well. The frets have been it's been gigged a lot. As if you're familiar with Challen, you know he's a busy guy. Plays well. The only thing that I would say that kind of took me by surprise was the body doesn't have particularly much in the way of contours. Like, it's comfortable, but it like does have a certain Art Deco vibe to it. Maybe. That makes sense? Anyone got any other questions? If you want to use the live chat thing, you can feel free to, but obviously it's not exactly happening enough that you need to. Do I run my HX Stomp into a live tube amp ever? Do you use full cable method and turn off amp cab sims when using it? No, Josh, what I do is like I send, before the amp and cab, my effects when I'm using a tube amp live go out of the send, which is before the amp and cab, to my live amp, tube amp, and I'm almost always using the tube amp. And then the front of house or mixing desk gets an amp and cab on it. Kind of stuck with legato improv when I feel forced to only play the next note in the series and running down the scale. Not sure how to get around it. You just have to start getting around it. So move into like a scenario where you're playing. Just start trying to do that sort of thing where you're just not necessarily even being fast with it. Let me undo that last. We're specifically trying to do things that are less scalar. That, for instance, if you're just doing 3-note per string, so going and switching the permutation can be a good thing. So instead of doesn't have to be fast, but we're just trying to get that idea that we don't just have to go. The Tim Miller thing might be a good idea as well. So like this, if you're in pentatonic, skip 1, then 2 again, skip 1. Okay, here's another. We can mix these things into more linear playing. arpeggios are another great resource. Oh, cheers, Ollie. That's really kind of you. So, does that answer some questions around, avoiding Stephen just sounding like it's going up and down the scale? I'm going to switch back to my Strat because I feel a bit more comfortable playing that. I guess back to the... Whoops, sorry. Hey, Dan Andrews. Hope California's doing better now. Anyway, trying to avoid... Well, that's another thing, actually, going back to the dad chat. One thing that having the kid did do for me was kind of make me realise that maybe having loads and loads of gear was less about what I was about as a person. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a load of room in this house. And, yeah, if anything, I need another room. And so having loads and loads of gear and boxes piling up all over the place became even less fun now that there's a kid around. The thing is, Stephen, I would say you don't need lots of variations to quickly sound less like you're doing something super predictable. Like it's the end of the line is maybe a good place to focus on. So like, so that was mostly scalar, but at the end I did something different. Like it's just the end there. And if you had like one or two little go-to tricks, you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing, you get quite a lot of flexibility feeling, and it sounds less like it's just... Even if it's just the end of the line, which becomes less scalar, whatever you want to call it, it quickly gets you away from that feeling that you're just going up, down. So I might try that sort of thing. And being able to end your line. Or, as you're running up the scale, start to come back down again. So that it's not straight up and down. And I think, yeah, less focus on it being pure speed and more focus on trying to make there be a bit of shape to your lines in that sort of thing might be what I would say. And that can maybe, yeah, exactly. That's what we're saying here, Eddie G. Yeah, so focus on the end of a line. I don't use Society of Jim Back. Thank you so much, the creative guitarist. Thanks for that. I do appreciate it when you guys donate. I know money is not that easy to come by. Dan Locke asks, how do I typically EQ different live versus low volume practice at home? To be honest with you, I don't take that much of a different approach. Live, I might go even slightly darker, but at home even, because I'm using monitors most of the time, studio monitors, and I'm going direct with a modeler, I tend to do the same sorts of things where I'm using a high cut and I'm boosting the mids anyway. And live, it just seems to be, for me, if you're going straight into a PA, that you want a little bit more of that. Yeah. Once you turn things up in the mix, you'll probably find that you want a few more mids. Is what I found live. But it is maybe just a different thing, and you're playing a totally different volume, and if you're using a modeler, you might find that once you bring things up to volume in a PA system, you're starting to hear ugly things that you didn't hear at home. So that's, one of the things. Dan Andrews says, I'm a seasoned player. That means he's got some pepper. Wondering, do you offer lessons online? I do occasionally. I do a couple. And actually, I find it actually does give me some good ideas sometimes for a video. But I've got a gig this weekend, so it's a bit of a thing. Thashil Ramdas says, modelling software is a revelation for home practice and trying amps out. I think modern software for me is great, and as much as people say it doesn't sound like an amp, well, neither does an amp once it's recorded, is what I've generally found. It's just another tool, which is great. And yeah, especially, like going back to supportive dad chat, doing stuff quietly at home. Yeah, it took 3 hours to get a deep gym, but here we are, bro. Right, this is for you, Jim, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. The top chat goal. I can cry if you want me to. Right, so this is a K-line. Just got yourself a deal on K-line Springfold and Olympic White. Get it unboxed, son. I want to see some videos. Videos? Photos. If you could send me an email with some photos. I love to see K-lines, and I loved it when I hear that people like theirs. I'm always worried that it's just me. Tried the K-line Pure Sky. That's a great pedal. It's a copy of a Timmy, which is a fantastic pedal. Stevie notices the pickup height on my K-line is quite low. It is. This is what it was like when I got it. And I found it actually works really well for me. So I kept them low, and it just works nicely. It seems to me to be quite an open sound. Thoughts on rev amps? I'd like to try one. Does anyone... Alexa, play Fetty Wap.
Shuffling songs by Fetty Wap on Amazon Music.
Alexa, stop. Dan, what are you doing, son? He's gone bonkers. Thank you very much for that. That's a lot of money. I really appreciate that. There you go. That's me trying to play some Fetty Wap. I didn't. What does Fetty Wap look like? Let me Google this, because I've only heard him like in memes. Does he have face tattoos? He does. Interesting. Or is that just one thing? What happened to Fetty Wap? Pleaded guilty to drug charges. 6 years in prison. He's currently imprisoned. Is he? Still putting out bangers. Trap Queen. Interesting. Right, where are we at? Rick Beato style shred. What is that? Will I sing you some Jeff Buckley? There might be a video if you search on my channel, Black Messiah. Hey, if you search, I think there might be a video of me playing piano and singing. Whatchamacallit? Oh, it might be on Jim's channel. What is Funka Chunk Chunk? Danny asked. Could I show some more funky stuff? That's an interesting idea. Ah. Let's try this bit. What's it do? Jim, you want to hear some slow dancing in a burning room? The song is like a it is a banger, isn't it, Marty? Right, slow dancing in a burning room. We'll probably play it over. James, where is Robin Ford playing? What is a fruit beer? It's horrible, that's what it is. Does anyone else hate bending on a strap bridge? Well, that's just killed itself. Right, you want I Can't Make You Love Me. Let's try and find a key. What if we do? Let's see where I can take it. Oh no. The wife is out again. What do I normally use for drums? I don't know if you can see me. Yeah, my internet just died. I apologise for that. Is it back? Yeah, it's my internet adventures in Gearland, not yours. I'm the problem. I don't know if it's back. Hopefully it might be. We back? Is it working okay? Hopefully. Chat's back. Gordon the cat. Steve Cassidy, right, you need to, for sure, email Lee and remind him. So I still got this box here. Is that Larry North? Right, I can't play in time right now. Katana Go merely a practice amp or the tones gig worthy? I think you'd find it maybe a little bit difficult to gig just because of the outputs on it. Like, could maybe get away with it. Might not be my first choice. If you're really limited on gear, I think there are things like the Boss GT1, which might make a better option for gigging, or certainly the Boss GX10. Obviously, that's a more expensive piece of gear, but it's the sort of thing that you could actually genuinely gig and have fun with, or an HX Stomp. Yeah, I play rubbish stuff all the time, Martin. Right, has anyone got any requests for certain stuff or chat that they want to do? This seems like this might be... Hey, Sonic Audio, I was mentioning you in a video today because you made me feel bad for doing paid reviews. But I'm glad you dug the K-Line. Yeah. Fast 16th note funk strumming. Is that going to work with this reverb? Can't turn off the reverb on this preset particularly easily. Well, there it is. If I do this, let me see. Sine foot switch. And this one. Let's see. Right, what do you... Some fast funk strumming. It's going to be out of time. I find like a loop pedal is really a really exposing way to play. gone? It's being crap again, is it? It says excellent connection. Clearly isn't. Refreshing works. Should I refresh as well? Or maybe I should leave it. Let me just stop that a second. There was a question, Nectarius, how do you incorporate rhythm in your soloing? My teacher says I only care about sounding melodic and he doesn't feel it when I improvise. I would try practicing and landing on like the one and being super conscious of where the snare drum is hitting as like at least a baseline for trying to make sure you're connected to the thing that's happening. This is something I definitely struggle with. My timing is dog shit. So it's something that I personally have to be conscious of. So I'm like listening here. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. So I'm imagining where the snare drum is, and I'm trying to keep that. 1, 2, 3. I like, if I'm playing subdivisions like there, I'm trying to sort of think a bit like a drummer and land it on a place where a drummer might. 1. So like focusing on the 1. Shall I restart the stream altogether? Will that be a thing that helps? I don't know. Let's see. It says it's okay, but obviously it's kind of not. Do you think it'd be worth just starting the stream again if you guys want me to? It's not too. It seems to be dropping frames over here, but Sonic Audio, Lyle, I hope you're doing well. I was interested to watch your K-Line review as well. Yeah, it's cool. I like to see people getting on with those guitars well, because I obviously feel like I've said a lot of stuff about K-Line guitars and I feel a bit nervous and like I'm going to get caught out. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like people think they're actually not great guitars, but... Do we think it'd be my... Can you see me at the moment? I don't know. It's just dropped a bunch of frames. My laptop just kicked me off again. Can you hear me okay? See? Danny, thanks so much for the donation. That's really kind of you. It's more what I've done to deserve you, I think, Danny. Hopefully some people get some stuff out of the stuff that I upload. Lyle seems to be getting stuff working all the time. It's getting glitchy. I don't know whether I should just try and restart this whole thing. What do you think? But yeah, I really appreciate the kind words. And the idea, I think, is to try and just make videos that I actually believe in. Not, not anything too earnest, but like making sure that the focus for me is still playing guitar on every single video. That's kind of the thing for me. And when there is a valid question, which you guys often have, I try and answer them, and hopefully that keeps things working along. Nectarius asks, Psionic Audio, do you think tube amps will become a thing of the past in a few years? I think this conversation has been going on a long time. Right, shall we... I dropped the pick very, very low. It fell on the floor, yeah. I'm going to try and restart the stream. So if you guys just hold on, I will be here. I'm just going to end the stream